Okay, Jim Carrey, stop beating around the bush. Make a Dumb and Dumber 3. Mask 2. Ace Ventura 3. Liar Liar 2. I don't care. We miss you, buddy. Sonic the Hedgehog 2 was directed by Jeff Fowler, returning director from the first one, and stars Ben Schwartz, Jim Carrey, and James Marsden. And it tells the story of Sonic, who's thrown into action once again when the evil Dr Robotnik returns along with a new partner, Knuckles, whose plan is to steal this ancient emerald capable of building and destroying civilizations. What's up, everybody, and welcome to my Sonic the Hedgehog 2 review. Thank you so much, guys, for taking the time and effort to click this video. I really do appreciate that. Now, I used to play the games a lot when I was a kid. I mean, who at my age now has not played the games as we were all kids? I used to play it constantly on PlayStation 1, on Sega Genesis, PC, or whatever the hell big game brand was back then, which was mostly Sega because this is a Sega property. But it is a beloved property. Of course, I liked the first film. I thought it was done really well. And I liked how at first they did the CGI for Sonic so different and it looked so over-sexualized. And I'm really glad that they redone it. Otherwise, it sort of wouldn't be a children's film. It would be more of an adulterated model type film because that's what Sonic looked like. They reworked it to how we know of it today, and that's all the better for it. It just wouldn't have been the same if they stuck to their original design. I don't know what they were thinking. And believe me, when I say a lot of parents would have been feeling a little awkward taking their children to see something like that. So when they reworked it, again, it was for the better. Jim Carrey was gold. I thought he acted very well in this. I left my ass off every time he was on screen. It's just a shame he was retiring. But did the film really live up? Was this film just as good as the first one? Let's jump into the positives of Sonic the Hedgehog 2. And it's got to be set in stone. Jim Carrey was hilarious. I am somebody that grew up with the best of this man's talent. Dumb and Dumber, Ace Ventura, The Mask, Liar Liar, and the list goes on. Even as far as The Cable Guy, even though that was more of a dark comedy, I still liked it because he was still in the prime of his routine, of his comedy back then. And that's what I grew up with. I was like 10 on up to my early teens whenever he was doing his thing back in the 90s. And I really do miss that. I really do miss Jim Carrey's style of brand of comedy that he used to do. And I think that's what he brought to the part of Robotnik in this film. Every scene he was in, I laughed my ass off. It was not a moment where he wasn't on screen that I was just either this close to cheering or just this close to dying of laughing, literally. He did pretty much everything I expected and wanted from this character. Now, granted that I don't really remember that much of the actual Robotnik character. I never seen any of the cartoons. I just played a little bit of the games, but I was a kid then. I have not played a single one since. We're talking like 8 years old. It's probably how old I was then. But the way Jim Carrey delivers, it's just magic. It's gold. Again, I go back to his old comedies, and that's what I had in my mind the whole time I was watching this, both the first and this one. He killed it. He nailed it. I've seen a lot of the sort of like the Ace Ventura tied in with Liar Liar. That's how good he did in this film, in both.
Papa's got a brand new stash.
I don't go for movies like this, often. For those of you who follow my channel, you know the type of movies I usually go for. But him alone, Jim Carrey alone, along with some other factors which will be named later, is what tied me into this. Plus the fact that I used to play the game as a child. So, you always got to have that tie-in to make you appreciate something like this. It's the reason why I'm discussing this with you right now. But this film didn't disappoint. It was done really well. And, just like I said, Jim Carrey was pretty much the highlight of it. And speaking of the other factors, the action was awesome. Granted, it didn't have as much of an emotional toll that Ambulance did on me a few days back. If you watch my review for that, you know how much that movie got to me, because it did. But it just depends on who you are. You got to know who you are. But I'm not saying that the action faulted because of that in Sonic the Hedgehog 2. I'm just saying it didn't have that much of an emotional stance with me, but it was still awesome. For a movie directed at kids and families, this had a bunch of PG-13 style action. I'm not saying that it had any cussing in it or anything, any bad language. They would always filter it with something else. You think he was going to say one thing, and then he ends up saying something else. Like the character flips it around on you, does like a 180, and I thought that was pretty clever. But the action sequences, from what I'm trying to say, is that they were so tense, so tensified. I was thinking I was watching a PG-13 movie, but this is directed towards family. It's directed toward kids. It is a straight-up PG movie. But the action, it really set a really great tone for this film. And I was in action heaven. You all know me. You know how much of an action junkie I am. And this definitely delivered on that front. It was a great action flick. And I think like that segment kind of directed more towards adults. But the kids really enjoyed it. There's a bunch of kids that went to the theater, in the theater that I was watching this one in. There's a bunch of kids that, kind of like, oh, hooray, yay, yay. They were cheering. And that's very rare that I see that. Of course, again, I don't go to family flicks that much. I'm pretty sure there's plenty of other family movies that children cheer at. But the action was pretty nuts. And I got to say the story was more advanced. What the first one was its own. As sequels sometimes tries to do, it upped it up a notch. There's more to the story. You got these characters, of course, usually the villains, searching for this ancient emerald that could either destroy everything or rebuild everything. It was pretty powerful for what this movie was trying to tell you. It was actually pretty interesting. There's this ancient stone out there that could either end civilization or rebuild it. I always appreciate concepts like that. The first film was good in its own way. The first film is usually the first film. The sequel, they up it up a notch. They really up the ante. And like I said, it just made it more roller coasty. Now I gotta talk about the characters. James Marsden did pretty well. He's a returning character from the first one. And Sonic's adopted father, I guess you could say. Like they pretty much take him in at the end of the first one. So he did pretty well. And I gotta mention the voices. Ben Schwartz, who does the voice of Sonic, he was pretty cool. I do remember a little bit of how he sounded in the game. He was close second. And great design. Again, I'm so glad they didn't stick with that original concept, but I won't get into that again. And the additional characters was pretty cool. You got Tails, played by Colleen O'Shaughnessey. If I'm mispronouncing that, I apologize. She was a great sidekick for Sonic. She was somebody who showed up at the end credits of the first one, so you knew he was going to be in this one. And then you got Knuckles. And it didn't really take me, like the first word when he speaks, I knew who the actor was, played by Idris Elba, who played Bloodsport in the Suicide Squad last year. And as soon as he opened his mouth, I was like, oh yeah, it's that guy. Awesome. That's another actor I really like. And he was cool. Without giving too much away, they sort of throw this enemy of my enemy is my friend type thing, but that's all I'll say. You got an interesting backstory with this Knuckles character. You find out that him and Sonic is more connected than you think. But I won't get too much into it. It's spoiler free. But it was an interesting backstory. It was interesting all around. And for my final positives, I just gotta say, I feel like they're really respecting this property. You got game adaptations of movies that has come out in the past that has failed miserably. Like the Hitman movies and Max Payne, and I'm sure there's others out there that I never even gave a chance. Those failed miserably, and it seems like we're starting to get in the age of where Hollywood's actually giving a crap. Uncharted is another one that people seem to like. Granted, there was still some flaws that I could see why people didn't like that one, but it just seems like compared to the others that has come out that I mentioned, like Hitman and Max Payne, it just seems like Hollywood is finally starting to actually care a little bit more. And I feel like that they're continuing on with that with Sonic. If they get to Crash Bandicoot, which is another game I used to play constantly on PlayStation 2, please do it right. Do not fail me. Just don't. Now that that's out of the way, as great as this film was, as good as I liked it, I still had my issues. I still had my problems with it. Yeah, maybe minor, but I'll let you decide. And my first negative is that whole side plot marriage thing with the in-laws. I feel like that kind of slowed the movie down. This one is maybe 20, 30 minutes longer than the other one. But I just felt like if they didn't have this whole stupid marriage plot in this one, it would have been about the same length. I just felt like it kind of dragged down. Although I did enjoy seeing Shemar Moore, who is in Criminal Minds. And I was like, oh yeah, it's that guy. Awesome. You need to be in more stuff. I always liked you in Criminal Minds. But still, that whole side plot wasn't for me. And because of that, some of the side jokes that those characters alone just was awkward. If it didn't come from Jim Carrey or Sonic, I wasn't laughing. I wasn't laughing at all. It came off awkward. It felt forced. I don't know. It just did not work for me at all. And what's sad is this is a movie directed towards kids, but they tried to throw adult humor in, which made no sense. I found more of the jokes towards the kids more enjoyable than the other side of those jokes towards adults. It is what it is. And last but not least, you have this character that was with the Robotnik character in the first one. He played sort of like his original sidekick, like an agent that was with him in the first one. Well, they had to drag this character into this one, and I just felt like he just dragged on. He felt completely useless. He didn't do anything to advance at all. In the end, guys, this is a film I thoroughly enjoyed. Despite its flaws, I really did enjoy this film. It's definitely a worthy sequel. And it's definitely something that families and kids can get into. So if you're a fan of the Sonic games and want to see what Hollywood has done with this property, you won't be disappointed. If you can get past the bad side jokes and the side plot, this is definitely a happy accident. So, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, what was your thoughts on that? Have you seen it yet? Are you a fan of these adaptations? Do you think Hollywood is finally starting to see the light of day of game adaptations? Are you somebody that enjoyed this film and the first one just as much as the games? Or are you somebody that hated the film adaptations? Are you somebody that preferred to go with the games instead? Leave me your comment down below and give me your thoughts. Thank you so much, guys, for watching this video. Like, subscribe, comment, and share, and I will see you on the next one. Peace.